Match number 2 of IPL 2021, the Delhi Capitals against the Chennai Super Kings. Let's look ahead to it then on ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout, powered by Intel. I'm Ronak Kapoor, and all set to join me, Sanjay Manjrekar and Daniel Vettori. All right, gentlemen, let's look ahead to this game. First concern for Delhi Capitals. Their two premier strike fast bowlers not available for this one. Rabada and Nortje haven't arrived in time to complete their quarantine to be available for this one. So, Sanjay, how do Delhi cope without them? They've got Chris Woakes and Tom Curran in the reserves.
They have enough options, but not of the kind of quality that, Rabada and Nortje with his form last season and the season before that, brought to Delhi Capitals. So they'll miss their confidence, their form, their experience in the IPL, but they've got options, and they aren't, very bad options. Ishant Sharma will play in the playing 11. There's Umesh Yadav. You mentioned Chris Woakes as well. Tom Curran is another option.
All right, Dan, they have the extra experienced Indian seamer in Umesh Yadav. Would you be tempted to play another overseas bat, perhaps, and play Ishant and Umesh both, or do Tom Curran and Chris Woakes both play as a like-for-like for the two overseas fast bowlers?
Well, I think Woakes is definite. I think this is the main reason that they bought him at the auction, is to have some cover around him. And probably the IPL hasn't seen the best of Woakes, like most international cricket fans have. So I think we'll see Woakes step in and be able to fill some of that vacuum with his experience and skill. I'd like to see Umesh Yadav in there. I think his ability, his wicket-taking ability early on is something pretty special. I know as the game goes on, he becomes less effective. But if you can bring those two players in, I think you cover 80 to 90% of what the two international seamers brought you last year.
All right, perhaps you have to have this conversation in totality with the four overseas. 24 wickets between Rabada and Nortje last season in the IPL at the death. So let's see who replaces that. But as we go to our second point for Delhi, Dan, we're trying to figure out whether Steve Smith can start in this side, especially given that they have to find someone to fill SHREYAS IYER'S void. Looking at the overseas options, does Smith start for you, Dan?
Well, in a lot of ways, I think they're like-for-like replacements in terms of the way they go about a T20 innings, and also about the leadership. I think with no SHREYAS Iyer as their captain from last year, they'll look to Smith with some of those leadership abilities. But I think primarily around his ability to build an innings. And Iyer, most of the time in T20 cricket, takes a little bit of time to get in, and then is devastating. And I think Smith can do exactly the same.
Now, underwhelming IPL for Rajasthan last year, Sanjay. New franchise. Does he fit into this Delhi 11
Rabada
for you?
and Nortje aren't available, it becomes a little easier to get Steve Smith in, and because of the nature of Delhi Capitals batting, because there is just a bit too much of flamboyance in their batting lineup. There's Prithvi Shaw, who's likely to play, so he brings a lot of flamboyance with himself. Then you've got somebody like Rishabh Pant, who will bat at number 4. You've got Stoinis, you've got Hetmeyer. So maybe the way these guys bat, Shikhar Dhawan is a little more steady in comparison. They might want Steve Smith until Nortje and Rabada aren't available, which means two foreign slots open up, and Steve Smith fits in nicely with the rest of the batting talent that they have.
All right. Now, this is perhaps a hard team to pick an overseas 4 for as well. So, Chennai Super Kings, does MOEEN Ali fit into their 11 picked up at the auction recently, Sanjay? And as we look at the options they have, you think they'll play Sam Curran. Dhoni likes Dwayne Bravo. He also likes Faf du Plessis. So, can there be room made for someone like MOEEN Ali in the 11?
I don't know about MS, but I've made room for MOEEN Ali, if that counts for anything. So I've got Faf du Plessis there. I've got MOEEN Ali opening, which means I have to say sorry to Ruturaj Gaikwad, who played quite well towards the end of the last IPL. Then I'll have Bravo as well in that team. And then Sam Curran, who's going to be a crucial player for CSK. His batting has improved leaps and bounds. So he'll be a guy who I'll start looking at as a batting all-rounder.
All right, Dan, what about you? MOEEN Ali fits into this team?
I agree with Sanjay. I think MOEEN Ali seems like the prototypical CSK player. I think the ability is all-round ability. He'll be used in so many different options with the ball, and probably with the bat as well. We could see him opening. We could see him in those middle stages, and I know that Chennai love those dynamic players, and so he fits in with their mode of doing things, and they paid a lot for him at the auction, so I think they'll expect a lot from him too.
All right. I know this is
Ronak, I'm just looking at this playing 11. If we assume that MOEEN Ali opens with Faf du Plessis, then suddenly you're looking at CSK with a lot of batting depth. because you have Shardul Thakur as well now, who's a pretty handy batsman at the T20 level. He'll be batting at number 8 for CSK, or maybe 9. You've got Dhoni down there, you've got Jadeja down there, Sam Curran and Moeen Ali opens. Then you've got somebody like Raidu batting at 4, Suresh Raina at 3. So plenty of depth in their batting. It's starting to look good if Moeen Ali does well at that opening slot.
All right. So both Sanjay and Dan endorsing Moeen Ali in this 11. Now one last thing, and this I think Sanjay will endorse strongly. Sam Curran's batting form. We're saying that Dhoni should really cash in on his batting form, Sanjay, and you believe that?
Yes, and and you have to make a statement when you trying to sort of nudge a player into which direction you want him to go, and you want to give him ample confidence. You've seen enough of Sam Curran in the IPL. He's a guy who makes the most of the ability that he is. He's not gifted physically to become the all-rounder that he is. I mean, he's a left-arm seaming all-rounder. He does a pretty good job with those limitations, but his batting, especially in the last game that we saw, India England, has really come of age, and I'd like to see CSK cash in on that and have him batting, after maybe Ambati Raidu at number 5, give him that responsibility, because he's a batsman. When I look at him, he seems to have all the gears. He seems to have the range of shots to be batting at number 5.
Now, is that the best way to use him with the bat, Dan? Bat him in the middle order, 5, 6, or can you go any higher than that, given the crowd that there already is at the top of the order?
I was just going to say, I think the fascinating thing this season will be to see the number of positions Sam Curran can actually bat in. And I know that the way that Dhoni manages his batting order, as Sanjay mentioned, Shardul Thakur, Jadeja, Sam Curran, they all have the ability to take their game away from an opposition. And I suppose it just depends on where Dhoni bats himself and where those 3 fit around him. But I think we could see Curran at 4 at his highest, and all the way down to 9 in some games as well.
All right, let's see how things go in the first game for both these sides. Thank you very much, Daniel Vettori and Sanjay Manjrekar. This was our preview to that game between DC and CSK on ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout, powered by Intel.